So this is actually why those conversations are so important, and people take sides. He's a tarot, or he doesn't get it, and then they get all inflamed about their idea, and or not. And I have no problem talking to somebody that doesn't quite understand my point of view, or because the measure of the future, you could have no measure of the future. You have to use first principles and understand kind of what's going to happen. Inside his argument, what he's actually saying, Bitcoin won't say decentralized and secure because we won't let it. Right? That's what he's saying, because he's saying it'll get captured by humans. Because if and that's and I'm saying it won't, right? And this is why, because once you have an insight of something like this, how important decentralization and security is for the world that we're moving to, you add your voice to it, and you defend it, and you protect it, and you're building new innovations that become that are further decentralizing and securing that network. And he's arguing history has never seen that. He's right, and I'm right. But again, if it stays decentralized and secure, that's why I kind of point on that, and then I want to dive a little deeper into that on what I see. But why I say that specifically is it attaches his belief into my belief, and it says, okay, then tell me how you're going to centralize this. Tell me how, because unless you can tell me how you're going to centralize it, or all of the attack vectors that you can try to centralize it in, then this doesn't care what your belief is. It doesn't care. It doesn't care what my belief is. It doesn't care what George's is. It doesn't care, because it doesn't care if a government wants to print 30% more currency units against it. It doesn't care if the government wants to expand the government by 50%, 100%. It just doesn't care. So you have to go a deeper level, and you have to say, okay, tell me how you centralize this. And that is the foundation, I think, the difference between those. He believes it'll be sometime human action will force it to be centralized, and I don't. And I've done so much work to and by the way, the attack vectors that I see on this are so much more extraordinary than what even many of the Bitcoiners think. Because I've done that work to realize most people will be like George, complaining about the system that they're making stronger with their very actions. Right? Most people will live pricing Bitcoin, pricing from the fiat instrument, making it stronger through their actions. Just about every, and so how could something stay decentralized and secure against that force that we were making stronger while making ourselves weaker? Those are the things that I really wanted to dig into. And that's also where our funding path and where what we're funding has been, to be able to make sure that those rails are complete, that it can't be stopped. Because if you just, so right now, I'll give you a really simple example. If you started with if you started with Bitcoin on layer 1 is decentralized and secure and can't be broken after every nation state attack possible and every bit of FUD possible, if you realize that that's already happened, it's behind us, and there's no way to attack Bitcoin sufficiently enough that you could centralize it, then you would have to, from that point, control layer 2. We are early in the innings of all of the exact same attacks happening on layer 2. And most Bitcoiners are actually making those attacks stronger because they're getting caught up in the misinformation of them. So this is something that expected, built technology to stop. That's what Fedimint is, right? That's what Breez is. So because you could see what would have to happen way before it would happen, right? It would have to, because the systems we're talking about are incompatible together. That makes sense, right? So one allows prices to fall for humanity. That's Bitcoin. One has to steal that productivity. Those are incompatible. So how would you make that incompatibility compatible? You I'm telling you what I would do if I knew this. I was Dr. Evil and I knew this and I had to make this. What I would do is, okay, I've lost layer one. Let's make sure layer one is tied to the US dollar, and let's win layer two. And then I could go from gold to petrodollar system to Bitcoin, and I could extend the same game for another 20 years. So that we're very early in that game.
In saying that, I wanted to touch on the centralization of the mining pools. Obviously, this has been a big thing recently, and the Bob Burnett's. There's many people that have been talking about this, and just the censorship aspect in general. I guess that's what people really need to know. I guess. So, what is your take on just the pools, where we're at with that, and maybe concerns you have or don't have, or how people can, hey, we're going to start our own ocean, and we're going to do this, and we need to start going back the other direction. What is your take on all that?
Yeah, I think this is going to decentralize further too, and there's no worry here in the long run. In the short run, there's some specific, but people are aware of those and building the options. One of those options is ocean, right? And and there's lots of different options that are emerging. The other thing with kind of big miners, a lot of the big miners are not as efficient kind of on the new machines and the new capital because they have the older machines or their energy. And so it forces decentralization of this network just through the free market and competition over and over and over. So that's not where I would say, if I was focusing on attack vector, I would focus higher in what's happening right now with what I said on layer 2. Anybody that's talking about Bitcoin as just a store of value is actually, whether they knowingly or unknowingly, is actually also becoming a threat to Bitcoin. Because that means it has to be captured at layer 2.
That is fascinating. I remember Saylor has been saying, and I feel like he changed his tune in a way. For a while he was saying it's property, not currency. And again, I'm kind of paraphrasing, but he was venturing. Moral of the story, he was venturing away from, hey, it's money, currency type of thing, and he was, hey, it's property, it's property. I always took that again just as nuance and having to understand the situation he's in and the scrutiny he's under. But it seems like he's even changed the way he's been speaking about it over the last couple of months. To your point of, you have to look at it as everything. It's not just a store of value. I know people try to reframe it as that. So I think that's really fascinating. So that's, again, aside from there.
And actually, if you go into that, let's say you're a public company and regulatory and there might be a perfect reason, even if Saylor knows exactly what we know, which I suspect he does. There might be a perfect reason to be able to make sure that it can live on as layer 1, and you can, to help the attack vector there, to be able to say that. But there is Bitcoin doesn't allow the world to transition to abundance unless it's also a layer 2 and unless it's actually money. Otherwise, it's just maybe I'm a little bit, or it would take a lot longer to get there, because it would just play the exact same game that we've been playing for the last 70 years onto Bitcoin rather than the petrodollar system.
Yeah, it's a whole nother, what do you, I guess I wasn't even planning to ask you this, but what are your thoughts on BRICS, and like, where do you kind of fall with just kind of the currency wars that are going on right now?
If you want the answer to that question right there and you like that spicy clip, check it out here. Come on, we'll see you in there. But if you want the full interview in its entirety, all the spicy clips put together, and you're not going to want to miss it, believe me, then check that out here. Come on, we'll see you in there. Do it.